This is going to be a lot of information to get through, so I say we go ahead and jump right into our overview of the 4 end-of-year data collections. And here we'll discuss some general and background information related to the end-of-year data submissions. The 4 CALPADS EOY data collections with the high-level view of the key data elements that are submitted in each of them. Unlike Fall 1 and Fall 2, end-of-year reports on the entire academic year, from July 1st of the prior calendar year to June 30th of the current calendar year, which means that any new students or students who have left during this timeline will be reported. End of year 1 contains course completion information, including Carnegie units and college credits earned, as well as leadership and military science course completions. End of year 1 also contains CTE participant and completer information and the work-based learning or WBLR file. End of year 2 contains program participation information that is submitted in student program or SPRG files. End of year 3 contains information on cumulative enrollment, student behavioral incidents, the student absence summary, graduates and completers, homeless youth, and students who take the summative LPAC and test as RFEP. End of year 3 contains the student incident results, student offense, and student absence summary file types. End of year 4 contains information on students with disabilities, including plans, statuses, specifically non-participation statuses, and post-secondary outcomes. And these are reported in your students with disabilities status, meet, plan, serve, and post-secondary status or PSTS files. Please note that the student's enrollment or SENR file and the student's information or SINF file must be up to date in CALPADS before uploading your EOY files. And this slide contains some quick but important reminders about the end of year data collection. The end of year data collections begin on May 6th. So May 6th is when your snapshots, reports, revisions, and cert errors will become available. The final end of year deadline is August 8th this academic year, which is 1 week earlier than last academic year. And this is in order to accommodate an earlier release of the California School Dashboard. Please note, though, that the August 8th deadline is the final deadline for end of year 3 and end of year 4. The next reminder here, the graduation cohort cutoff date remained the same this year as it was last year with August 15th, in order that students graduating in the summer may be included in the 2024 to 25 four-year adjusted cohort graduation rate or ACGR. This means that the end of year certification deadline of August 8th and the pull of data for the adjusted cohort graduation rate on August 15th have been decoupled. The cohort pull and the final deadline for the end of year submissions in previous academic years was the same date. Last academic year, both the final certification deadline for EOY and the cohort pull happened on August 15th. But this academic year, due to the earlier release of the California School Dashboard, again, these have been decoupled, and the final deadline date for the end of year submissions is August 8th, while the cohort pull will occur on August 15th. As a result, there may be a slight difference between the certified counts of your graduates and completers and the counts of your graduate and completers that are included in your cohort reports. Those are reports 15.1 and 15.2. All right, this slide contains the data collection calendar for the 24 to 25 academic year. So very quickly here, both Fall 1 and Fall 2 began on Census Day, which is the first Wednesday in October, and this year landed on October 2nd. Fall 1 had an initial certification deadline of December 13th, followed by an amendment window, and a final deadline of January 24th, 2025 this year. Fall 2 had no amendment window and only a single deadline of March 21st, 2025. We're now in a brief period of time in between the Fall 2 and the end of year submissions. Again, the end of year submissions begin on May 6th. This is when your snapshots, reports, and certification errors will become available. The end of year submissions have an initial certification deadline of July 25th, 2025. And this will be the final deadline for end of year 1 and end of year 2. However, end of year 3 and end of year 4 require CELPA approval in addition to LEA approval. And so end of year 3 and 4 have an amendment window, followed by a final certification deadline of August 8th, 2025. And then the final thing to note while we're on this slide is with regards to cohort processing. So CalPADS is continuously processing cohort data. However, the CDE does pull cohort data in order to calculate the adjusted cohort graduation rate and cohort counts that are used in quite a few of the dashboard indicators that are informed by end of year. And the pull of that cohort data will again happen on August 15th. And these are the dates that have been decoupled. So August 15th is a different date from the final deadline date for end of year, which is August 8th. In prior academic years, these were the same date. I did mention it on the timeline slide, so let's go ahead and take a slide just to ensure that we make the point here that there are two levels of approval that are required for different end of year submissions in order to certify. End of year 1 and end of year 2 only require LEA approval in order to certify. And so for end of year 1 and end of year 2, LEA approval equals certification. But for end of year 3 and end of year 4, we require CELPA approval in addition because of the relevant data for students with disabilities. So for end of year 4 and end of year 3, LEA approval plus CELPA approval equals certification, whereas for end of years 1 and 2, only LEA approval is required for certification. So those are the two different levels of approval. And again, this explains why there is no amendment window for end of year 1 and 2, but we have the amendment window for end of year 3 and 4. And that does conclude our discussion of all 4 of the end of year data collections, kind of a general 10,000 foot view of all 4 of them.
You have completed this module. Please continue to the next video. Thank you.